How about that, boys? Back to back.
Let's go.
About those cheese.
First time in 2 decades, and it's our Kansas City Chiefs who ran it back. Don't even need to know who it was before that. They're irrelevant.
We are erasing them off the map, the history books right now.
This is
They had
the
their run.
best
It's over.
the best 5 year period in NFL history. There's no debating it.
There's no debating it, but just like Pat said in one of his after Super Bowl interviews, like he's always going to have that chip on his shoulder that he lost to Brady in an AFC Championship game and a Super Bowl.
Yep.
He's never gonna escape that monkey, regardless of how many Super Bowls he wins now. Like
No, and the sad part about that is like, yes, he's 0-2 against Brady in the playoffs. The sad part about it mostly is that it's a team sport, and everybody's just going to remember that Patrick Mahomes lost to Brady, not that D Ford was offsides and that there
it's a,
was this
it's a,
BS
it's a team sport.
and that there was a BS penalty called on Chris Jones for roughing the passer and all the other stuff that happened with the team. And then in the Super Bowl, when you've got fifth string, sixth string offensive line guys who weren't on a team for 90% of the season and guys dropping the ball, it's always going to be that. So that's going to be the monkey. It's sad that it's got to be there, but at the end of the day, that's going to go down as the greatest quarterback to have played the game. Will we get to GOAT status for all of every player that's ever played the game? Maybe since it's always going to be about rings. But right now, this is the best 5 year period that an NFL team has ever played.
Chiefs fans know who we got, baby.
Patrick Mahomes is on a level of superstardom right now that no one else is even close to, right? Like Michael
And
at his
Travis Kelsey,
time, mm,
just because of Taylor.
I was gonna say we got a duo
as
that's
far as
like
athletes go,
Yeah,
strictly by themselves,
yes.
though, Patrick's leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. There's no one even close in the competition across all sports playing right now.
I would
until
agree.
until he reaches Tiger Woods name or face recognition globally. Um, I'm gonna hold out the judgment on that one. But we do have two superstars that are kind of annoyingly dominating like sports media right now.
I don't think we're too far off of that, Tybo. We've had the game in Mexico City. We just played the game in Germany, which um our fan base outside of the United States, our largest fan base is in Germany. We've got a huge fan base over there. Um, Travis
Just
Kelsey is confirmed that he's playing for another 2 seasons at least because he's vying for the game that's going to be played in Madrid in 2025. So there's that. I mean, we are on track to potentially have Patrick Mahomes be that face, like you just talked about with Tiger Woods, recognized globally
I
because the
don't
game is expanding.
I don't remember if the list had a certain name or whatever, but they used to put out like the most recognized athletes worldwide. I don't know how they conducted
Mm-hmm.
their survey or whatever,
I
but
think it was based off of
I'm remembering it
Instagram
mostly from
followers.
like the middle of the 2000s. Like it
Oh,
was, um, and I haven't really kept up with it. So like, I mean, I guess it could be that way now, but it used to be Tiger Woods and Kobe, and then like a bunch of soccer players, like Leo Messi, even back then, like they it was all soccer players and it was Kobe and Tiger Woods.
yeah. I think now it's off of Instagram followers, but I remember
Oh,
Sports Illustrated and ESPN doing it back in the early thousands, 2000s, and that would have been they probably would have ran some poll or something with the offsite.
if you go to like a random country in Africa, not one that's gonna like jab you with spears, but like one of the more like industrialized ones, where it's like, hey, who is this? Show them a picture of that. That's Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes.
Hell of a game, goes into overtime. The Chiefs win 25-22. Sean asked me this question pre-show. Tybo, at any point in time, did you ever get nervous that we may not be able to hold this one up?
So I'm dude. I am known to be the guy that's like, hey, the Chiefs have scored 28 points in a quarter before. Even in the playoffs, we shouldn't worry about shit. But it was the way that specifically Nick Bosa was manhandling Jawan Taylor and getting after Pat Mahomes. I thought it was going to happen in a big moment, and the exact opposite happened. Like Pat made his plays, and then our guys on defense stepped up. And I don't. I actually. I'm not going to give that one to the actual guys on the defense. You know why? Because that was all Spags. Where he brought
Spags we
those,
trust.
where he brought those blitzers, the timing of the blitz, like that was due to practicing with Spags, scheming it the way he wants to, and he pulled the trigger at the right moments because the biggest third downs of the game, we had a DB in his face. We had somebody in his face there to mess him up, and it worked.
I
But
want
I
to
was
talk about that
nervous
play.
as fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
I
pretty
think
quiet
I
at my
use the
Super Bowl
word
party. Like I was pretty quiet.
I use the word anxious. I don't think I was ever nervous that we were going to lose it. I knew we're a one half team, right? We either play really good in the first half, really bad in the second, or vice versa. We had the bad half in the first half. We were only down by 7. I never doubted it, but I was definitely quiet. I was definitely anxious. Had the heart fluttering a little bit. But I want to talk about that play that you just mentioned, Tybo, and yes, Spags deserves probably all of the credit that goes on. Chris Jones was in the backfield all day, but that specific play where Trent McDuffie was in the backfield disrupted the pass, and I caught the slow mo of it. And I thought it was really interesting because Brock Purdy. This just shows that Brock Purdy, at least at this point in time, is not the core, not a guy. He is not the guy. He'll never. I won't say he'll never be the guy because he could definitely learn from this. He has some intangibles there, but that play specifically showed me that he can't necessarily read a defense because Trent McDuffie steps up and then steps back. And as he's stepping back pre snap, Brock Purdy realizes, okay, he's taking the one step back, looks down at the center, snaps the ball, never looks over at Trent McDuffie again. Just automatically assumes that because he took a half a step back, he's going to follow and trail. And instead, he comes in and runs a stunt with the edge rusher and goes on the inside. And that to me showed, number one, yes, it was really, really good coaching and play calling from Spags, but Trent McDuffie having the wherewithal to know that Brock Purdy is inexperienced enough that he's never going to check to see if he's coming back so that he can disguise and hide himself as he comes inside and then just bat on Brock Purdy. So I think it's a little bit of like, yeah, we've got the perfect combination between Spags and the guys on defense to be able to do some weird things with some very inexperienced players. I thought that was really special.
I truly think it's Spags taking advantage of Brock's inexperience, kind of banking on he's going to make this kind of mistake in that type of situation. And it worked.
I mean, Spags has done this before. He's done this against Tom Brady. So does this just mean that Spags is the best big game defensive coordinator out there?
As long as he can get there, I guess I all credit due to Spags, man. I talked bad about him for a couple of years, and look where he's brought us now.
Eating my words right now.
Happily.
I will say you take a couple of playmakers off this defense, and Spags is going to keep us right around the middle of the pack. Like we just have cheap, good players on defense. We're able to stack more of them for how young we are. And it's really just the perfect storm. Other teams have to eat our dirt because of it.
Yeah, we'll get into some postseason talk later on throughout the postseason. But there's definitely some cap moves to make that can keep this core together. And I'm very excited to kind of jump into the possibilities that'll present themselves in the postseason as the new league year begins here in a few months. But this defense also had me a little scared, especially in the first half. Obviously, didn't give up a whole lot of points. We gave up the most points in the second half that we have for any against any team so far in the postseason. But Christian McCaffrey really got after us. 80 yards rushing, 80 yards receiving. That had me scared definitely in the first half, and I was so surprised that they got away from it in the second half.
We still made him make a mistake, baby. Their best playmaker. We still made him make a mistake.
Early on, very early on. But at the same time, he had all that yardage outside of the red zone. He really didn't do a whole lot inside the red zone. They weren't there a whole lot either. So we just had a lot of bend, but we didn't break a whole lot either. Exactly what we want from our defense.
Guys, I talked about that 20-point threshold that many people talk about just overall in the NFL. If you can hold a team to under 20 points, you should have an offense that can get the job done. Like it's kind of like a basic formula in the NFL nowadays. Like that was a great game. I get the slow start. I get how we react to not having very many points on the board, but that was a well to put together football team and a fucking fantastic game. Like, sure, NFL fans didn't really care about who was in the Super Bowl this year. They had to choose between the lesser of two evils, by their opinion. But that was a damn good game. It goes into overtime, and we still hold the Niners to 22 points. That's a completely stacked roster that you put a superstar level quarterback on, like that's guaranteed rings. No, like money wise, it wouldn't work out, obviously, but you put a good quarterback on that team, someone who's got a little bit more experience. Like I think we mentioned a couple weeks ago, you put a Russell Wilson on this 49ers team. My God, this team
Kirk
that team
Cousins.
should have rings. Yeah. But we competed front to back. We competed. Those boys played their hearts out.
I was
It really
surprised.
was, except for Kadarius Toney, which I'm thankful for. It was the regular season redemption tour in the playoffs.
You were calling it right before playoffs.
It was Petty Pat's time. Someone even tweeted out, like, let's watch us have all these problems with dropping the ball in the regular season and getting to the playoffs and not drop a single pass. I realized we dropped more than a single pass, but like the drops weren't the problem in the playoffs if we had any problems.
Penalties weren't the problems either. I mean, you go back and I was saying it all season. A team isn't just going to go and fix it. They didn't do it for 14 weeks. They didn't do it for 15 weeks. All of a sudden, we get to 2 weeks out from the playoffs. Penalties stop. Dropping the ball stop. The turnovers stop.
We bench Kadarius Toney.
You Darius Toney and Guy Moore. MVS starts seeing the field a lot less. Didn't have his 100-yard game that you said was going to happen.
Came up big though. Came up huge.
It did come. He did
baby.
come up big. He did come up big. Needs to be cut. Saved $12.7 million, but came up
Let him
big.
celebrate
Wasn't
first,
on the field.
man.
A whole
Even
lot.
after a Super Bowl touchdown, we got to cut the guy. Oh man, can you believe it?
Yes, yes, 100%. Yes. Don't re-sign McCole. Sorry, love you, guy. Thanks for your service. See ya. A lot of overhaul on the offensive side, at least at the skill position. But overall, we got what we needed out of the offense. Defense played spectacular, carried us all season. Potentially a top 5 defense of all time. A lot of people are saying top 10. I'd go as far to say is potentially a top 5 defense of all time. The way that they played, didn't have the turnovers, but didn't need them. They stopped every single team in their wake.
Well, shit, we got the turnovers in the playoffs
And got them when they mattered. And this offense was serviceable. exactly what you needed them to be. And when we needed somebody to be special for at least a second, Patrick Mahomes was able to carry us when we needed it, no matter who was out on the field. I think that his ability to be able to run the ball in the playoffs, something that we have talked about on this show, and I know a few others have as well, his ability to run the ball more effectively than anybody else on the team, even Isaiah Pacheco, who's been a workhorse in the playoffs, was fantastic. My favorite play, I think that was easily my favorite play of the game. Was I believe it was the fourth and one. It was a short yardage play, and we do a zone read option, and Patrick
Yep.
Mahomes keeps it.
Overtime.
And
Right.
Bosa was so lost.
Who's looking for that?
Never-
Even with his track record of running the ball, who the hell is looking for that?
Nobody's looking for this. It's the first design run for Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. Only time in his career where he actually has a design run. And nobody's looking for it because you see Bosa crash down. You've got the outside corner run to the flats. You've got the backside corner who runs all the way back downfield. You've got the safety who crashes down and the linebacker who crashes down. Patrick Mahomes has parted the Red Sea. It's nobody within 20 yards. I think he got like 12 or 15 out of it. Got everything that we needed, but there was nobody. Everybody crashes outside. One of my favorite play calls of that entire game, because situationally and knowing that we needed it, knowing that nobody is going to expect Patrick Mahomes to carry the ball, Nick Bosa in his dumbassery decides to crash down instead of do the smart thing that a defensive end is supposed to do in staying contained. And you easily, that
Dude,
play
he did
right
not
there
practice zone
is
read
what
against
won the
Patrick
game.
Mahomes all week. For 2 straight weeks, they did not practice zone read fucking responsibilities versus Pat Mahomes.
I don't care. We also didn't, I guarantee you, we didn't necessarily look at bootlegs all week. Because how many times has Brock Purdy run a bootleg? And it didn't kill us more than one time. You always, I don't care who you are, your job as a defensive end is outside contain. I don't care how many times you practice it or don't practice it. If you are the outside defensive end, you never crash down. Nick Bosa just showed why he will never deserve a
But
defensive
when
player of the year.
they're quick about it and it's an actual handoff and it works, nobody's bitching about that. Like, he's trying to make a play in the Super Bowl, and
He had
because of his
Pacheco.
aggressiveness,
He
we
had
used it against.
Pacheco.
He had Pacheco, but
Right.
also so did 10 other guys.
Well,
Literally
I
nobody
get
had
that.
Patrick.
I get
10 other
that.
guys had him.
If this play had scored a touchdown, or if it wasn't enshrouded by a bunch of other like awesome plays, I think it would almost be as iconic as Peyton Manning's end around at the goal line that nobody was expecting.
Not even the cameras.
Right. But that was just one of many plays that came at like the perfect time. This was such a minor part of the game, but it got us a first down and kept a drive going. McKinnon hasn't played all playoffs.
Oh,
The
he hasn't
3
played
games
since
in the
week
playoffs.
16.
What's up?
I don't think he'd taken a snap since week 16 due to injury.
To basically, I mean, he's not cold because he's been practicing, but to basically come out cold in the Super Bowl and run some super important plays for us, like, that's the epitome of who he's been for the team. He's reliable. He's there when we need him. And we didn't necessarily need him all playoffs, but he showed up big time on the plays that we used him in the Super Bowl. And I can't thank him enough for just being on the team and being that guy for us. Like, fantastic. Happy to have him on the team.
Hope he can stay on the team because he is super important for what we do on this team throughout the regular season and in the postseason. He's continued to show that he's a team player. Look at the Super Bowl last year, going down, sliding early. Like, that's the type of guy and the mentality that you need on the team. Sean, do you have a favorite play from the game?
One of my favorite plays was honestly that right after Patrick's long run, I thought he was going to go in there, kind of like the Tennessee Titans game. I thought he was going to try to will himself in there, but
Yep.
it wasn't the bowling pitch to Travis Kelce. He actually threw it overhand this time. Little quick screen where we came inside. it was like what 2nd and 7. I thought Travis was gonna try to run into the end zone right there. That would have been a perfect moment for him. But that was honestly encapsulating it all. 30 seconds left after that. I thought we were going to end up calling a timeout there. We run the clock all the way down. And then, of course, you pull out the new tradition of corn dog, Tom and Jerry. It was beautiful. Just that whole entire sequence right there was just classic, what we're used to now as Chiefs fans. And frankly, we kind of expect to see.
I thought I had that play memorized, but I'm forgetting the first part of it.
I can't remember right now either.
Tom,
I,
God damn it. Ugh.
I honestly
shuttled Tom and Jerry is all I remember.
I honestly thought Andy was going to call a timeout, do some fuck shit, and go ahead and put like an offensive lineman trick play touchdown pass to win it.
No,
that would have been the ultimate sign of disrespect.
Comes down to corn dog.
Would you imagine big man touchdown to win the Super Bowl?
That would be pretty good.
I think it finally got through his head to stop doing cute shit around the goal line. I think finally
that was just all
Super
practice
Bowl.
during the regular season.
Yeah.
Playoffs, like, we may be able to get away with this. He was testing it still.
Must have been.
How
do we feel about how overtime went? Obviously, defense got unlucky with the Trent McDuffie holding call that happened there. Only gave up a field goal, bend don't break. But how do we feel about this? Because there's a lot of controversy going on, and Carrington Harrison's been talking about it, and so was Andrew Whitworth and Kurt, and a lot of people in the media scene have been discussing this. How do we feel about the thought process for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan to take the ball first, given the new iteration of the postseason overtime rules?
I think that was a stupid decision. I think he just came in extremely unprepared. Apparently none of the players knew what was going on. In that situation, you have to know what's going on. I understood where he was trying to come with it at, whenever he's going to get it on the third drive, expecting he was going to go that long. But if you don't score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion, you're not going to get to that point.
I was going to say, if you go with that logic and you don't be more aggressive on your end of the field or your opponent's end of the field, they settled for 3 there, and they were pretty damn close to the end zone. If you take that ball first, I feel like you gotta have the Dan Campbell balls and go for it on 4th down, or just try to punch it in, because you give the ball back to Pat and you expect us only to kick a field goal in the Super Bowl of overtime. Like,
we're guaranteed 4 downs no matter what. Like,
if you go with that mindset, I feel like you got to be a little bit more aggressive, because they get the field goal there and it completely ruins that strategy. Everybody in college football takes the ball second. Even Andy Reid had it in his plan to kick the ball off.
And in the college football iteration, there's a little change, because if you take the ball second, then and you go into the second period, which happens more often than not, you get the ball first as you go into the second period. So you're on the field twice. I don't dislike the calling. I think I agree with you, Tybos. I don't disagree with saying give me the ball first, as long as you score the touchdown. You do have to be aggressive there, because you're giving the ball back. Because in the rules, it's that, if you score and then say the Chiefs score, you're getting the ball and can win the game with a field goal. I don't mind taking the ball first if you're expecting it to go that far, but you also still have to remember to be very, you can't be cautious. You have to get the 6 points. Now, if you kick the PAT, that's totally fine in my mind. If you take the 7, because then that forces them to either tie you up and give you the ball back so you can drive down and get the field goal and win, or they've got to go for 2 and puts the pressure on that team to get the 2-point conversion. I don't mind going for it, but yeah, you do have to be aggressive in that play calling and get the touchdown. Otherwise, game's over. Especially when you have to go up against a guy like Patrick Mahomes.
And Shanahan seemed like he was having some aggressive play calling earlier in the game. Just he kind of abandoned it there at the very end, whenever it actually mattered the most. Because he called a few fourth down plays and actually converted on those.
Yeah, he did. He did. And like I said, man, I don't disagree with it. A lot of people do. A lot of people say, you can't you got to give the pressure to Patrick Mahomes and then know what you've got to work with. I don't mind the logic, but you've got to be really aggressive and make sure that you get in the end zone or you have no chance whatsoever.
I found the play call.
Go ahead.
Tiger 12, Tiger 12. That brings McCole Hardman in, right? We got 2 tight ends and 1 running back. Tom and Jerry Wright, gun trips, right bunch, F shuttle. Ready, break.
Ew. Ew.
That gives you a little corn dog with ketchup and mustard. I'll tell you what, boy.
Gets me a little excited. Oh,
It gives me a corn dog, if you know what I'm saying.
Now, Patrick Mahomes got a Super Bowl MVP, but who are some other players that you guys think were deserving of that honor? Because there was some great performances all around.
if there would have been one more field goal in the game, I would have 100% been upset that Patrick got it and not Harrison Butker. That guy, after the horrid year that he had last season, after getting injured in the first game in Phoenix and not playing well at all last year, missing a ton of short field goals, coming in this year and only missing 2, he went 44 or 46 field goals throughout the entire season, I believe it was, setting a Super Bowl record for the longest field goal made,
Right
57.
after Mr. Moody put one through at 55. He's
He
like, hey, look what
also,
I can do, bitch.
if I remember correctly, he also now holds the record for most field goals made in Super Bowls with
Hmm
8. And
He's
he's
passed
very close.
Vinatieri.
He's all
Wow.
8 field goals made in Super Bowl games throughout his career. He holds the record. I believe he's also going to get very close. I think he's very close to postseason field goals made as well. So in my eyes, I would have
If he's got
one more field
Vinatieri in the
goal
Super
would have done
Bowl,
it.
like I feel like he's got to be damn close for the playoffs.
Yeah. So one more field goal in that game probably would have done it for me. I would have 100% said Harrison Butker deserved the field goal, but or the MVP. But that's outside of Pat Mahomes. I think that's my
That's the
MVP.
last person they would give it to. They're not going to give a sport called football to a kicker. Come on. That's
It only makes
ludicrous.
sense. He's
I
actually
don't
kicking it.
I don't think there was anybody on defense that I could single out as giving an MVP award to because the whole
McDuffie.
the whole of the defense played fantastic, and they like multiple players made plays. I think if you wanna single out the guy that made the most plays, we probably have to go with McDuffie. But Karloftis made his mark on this game. Even our rookie FAU put his mark on this game.
Dude played great.
Chris Jones was
Mike
Chris Jones. Like,
Mike Pennell showed up,
and
activated 2 days ago, 2 days before the
guys,
Super Bowl.
guys. I don't know who was actually credited with the forced fumble against Christian McCaffrey at the beginning of the game, but it
Leo
was actually Nick.
Chenal.
It was actually Nick Bolton's hand that punched it out. I swear to God, I don't. I forget who the commentators were talking about. I think it was Leo that had his arms around the guy, but Nick Bolton's hand is actually what punched the ball out. So shout out Nick Bolton.
Shout out.
I mean, Leo had a very good day as well. He was credited for that fumble. Uh, he got that blocked field goal, even though the guy behind him was going to block it as well too. Just big day for him. He shot the gaps really well, contained on the edge.
You know how hard it is to script a blocked field goal or a blocked extra point in the NFL, man. You gotta kick it perfectly. You gotta have the hand in the perfect spot. Like,
That was honestly play of the game.
That's
well,
that's so hard. That saved it. That is insane. That blocked kick. Just keep thinking about it. And everybody, it wasn't just one, obviously one person got the hand to it, but you go back and you watch that in slow-mo. If it wasn't his hand, somebody else's hand was getting there because that thing collapsed. There was no blocking from that front line on that field goal unit. That was a thing of beauty.
And it's a slightly different unit. Like that is technically special teams out there, but it's mostly our guys on defense that are out there making that happen, right? The San Francisco 49ers played great both on offense and defense. You can't really fault them too much in this game, but did their defense make any big plays like that?
Outside the interception, no.
And I mean, as as much as yeah, you can point to that for the 49ers, did they actually make that play? No. Pat threw it
Definitely
to him.
not. No.
Like
Yeah.
Pat skied it, overthrew Travis Kelce, and just laid it into the arms of their DB. Like it wasn't. They didn't make that play.
I would agree. Yeah. And I think part of the reason why is losing Drew or Trey Greenlaw.
Shout out Sodfather again this year.
Bro, I feel bad for the guy, but you're a grown man, trained athlete. You should not be snapping your Achilles like that.
That's one thing I want to point out because having a lot of injuries in college myself and seeing that and somebody I think it was a doctor had put it out or an athletic trainer had reviewed some of the stuff that Trey had been doing throughout the season. If you look at it when he snapped it, he was pushing off with the toes and the heel was elevated off the ground. And then a lot of the things that we're doing for especially football, maybe not as much for other sports, but the training that you do for football, a lot of it is flat feet off the ground. You're working on exploding off the ground with flat feet. Whether you're looking at it in your stances, whether you're looking at it from doing your power cleans, deadlifts, squats, everything has to do with feet flat on the ground. But when you step out on the field, everything is done off the ball of your feet. Your heels are elevated. That's how you explode. And so seeing the results of a lot of the injuries that the 49ers have had over the last 3-4 years, we're talking about obviously Greenlaw popping his Achilles, but then you've got the hamstring issues that come from Debo. You also had the injury to Brandon Ayuk a couple years ago. You've got the defensive line injuries that they've had over the last couple years. I mean, this 49ers team is constantly riddled with
So
issues. It has to do with their
what you're
training.
saying there is their strength and conditioning coaches suck ass,
They're
and
bad. They're
they don't
really
have Bobby
bad.
Stroop.
They do not have Bobby Stroop. They don't
Bobby.
have the best athletic trainer in the NFL, Rick Berhalter. There we go. Uh, but yeah, no, I think that's one of the issues that they have. Continuous issues of the same muscle groups or specific individuals having multiple injuries over the last few years. Their strength and conditioning and possibly even their nutritionist, they need to have some internal reviews because 4 or 5 years in a row, it's not good.
Do you think they're gonna have that survey again after this year amongst all the players?
Yeah.
Um, uh, Last year it came out prior to the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly. So most likely not.
I thought that was
I
like
thought they already
off
did that, and
season.
it was like end of the season type, end of the regular season type shit.
It was.
I
I don't
could
remember
Google it,
seeing
but
it.
it's not that important to me at this point.
No, definitely not.
Pat's got 3. The franchise has 4, baby.
He's gonna get that three-peat, man.
I
He's gonna
am
get it.
fearful for the rest of the league. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Like
As Colin Coward said, this was the year to beat us, boy.
the last 2 years. These were the last 2 years to beat us, and you couldn't do it.
Imagine this defense with good turnover luck. Imagine that. We're not even
Imagine
talking
this
about the offense at
offense
that
with
point.
another
Imagine
receiver.
imagine Pat with I mean, you don't have to go far back in your mind to think of this, but think of a wide receiver core that catches the balls that Pat throws them.
we've been through this with the Patriots. We know what it's like to be on the other side. And I tell you what, it feels really good to be on the right side of history.
Anybody else remember at the beginning of the season when we were having our struggles? We started 0-1 against the Lions. I was like, hey, Patriots started 0-2 one season and won the Super Bowl back in the day. It's nothing is out of the realm of possibility when you got players like Pat Mahomes.
And like I said, we've got the ability to make some really good cap room. Sean and I were diving into maybe some free agents. I think some of the top names are definitely going to get tagged, but with cap space that could be made up into the 90 million mark for the 2024 season, and guys out there like Juwan Jennings, who would be on a lesser contract, a guy like Hollywood Brown, who's young and wouldn't demand that much money.
Juwan Jennings, who just like had success against us in
That's
the
your Juwan
Super
Jennings.
Bowl.
Yes.
Hey, we need a wide receiver 3.
Another guy who can throw the ball.
Who would be the wide receiver 2 above him? Like Rice,
Technically,
Hollywood
probably,
Brown.
Rashee Rice,
Hollywood Bryce or Rasheed Rice. There's your 1 and 2. You
Hollywood
got your
Bryce.
3. Hollywood Bryce.
Hollywood Bryce. But Rice is going to be our de facto number 1 unless we bring in just someone top tier. But like, who I thought you were saying he'd be our wide receiver 3 in this current room. I'm like, who else are you putting above him?
Oh,
bro?
no. I'm expecting Mike Evans, and
Pittman.
who's the other one?
Michael
All
Pittman.
of them. Jesus
And
Christ, dude.
I'm expecting those 3 to get franchise tagged.
Oh,
So
I
I'm
thought you were
expecting those
expecting
3
them
to
to come here. Good
Blow it all
God.
I mean,
up. We're going receivers
if
only.
one of
We'd
them
be
doesn't get
unstoppable.
franchise tagged, they're coming here. But I expect all 3 of them to be franchise tagged. The
Mike
next best
Evans,
free agent is going to be Hollywood
T.
Brown
Higgins, Michael Pittman, and Rashee Rice.
and Travis
Oh my
Kelce.
God. Nobody would be
Nuts.
happy. Nobody would be getting the ball enough.
No. Hey, let's relish in this moment. We've got by the time you're listening to this, you're already down at the parade or you've been at the parade. Enjoy it. Have fun. We will be back in a few weeks as we start talking about the new season of the NFL in
How about that
2024,
D,
maybe a little
baby?
bit of basketball and everything else that comes in the off season. Enjoy it, champs. You
It's the
deserve it.
Dynasty, baby. Go Chiefs!
As always.
Go Chiefs!